Certain. Okay, there we go. I'm resident of Callaway, Joel Sains, and joining me tonight is Don Schmidt. How are you, man?
Good, Jewel. I'm doing well. I'd like to start off by saying my condolences for the loss of your mother-in-law.
Thank you.
Um, and I also am glad that you're on the mend. I know a lot of people were concerned. I had reached out to Mark, and we were both really concerned. So I'm glad you got a lot of support. And you're on the mend. I know it's a hard time for your family right now because we're going into the holidays. So we're all thinking about you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And I know my wife, I was talking to her, and I've been talking to her ever since it happened. And I think it's just, as someone who lost their mom too, it's not an easy process. It's just something, it's every day. But I digress. But we are here to discuss 1795. So, to you, when do you think they started going toward 1795 before we?
Well, I've heard other people mention this, and I kind of thought about it too when it was happening. It was definitely when Burke and Vicky, where they were Elizabeth was going to give them or let them use, I think it was Seaview,
Right.
and Vicky was looking out that window. Says, I think she said a schooner or
Yep.
something, and went, whoa, wait a minute. There are there, is Dan Curtis thinking of a time jump here? And I think that was really, they were experimenting with it. Of course, that house had to be put on hold because for whatever reason, but they were definitely thinking about it then.
Yeah. I always thought in some way, shape, or form, eventually, like after 1795, that Dark Shadows would find a way to use that house as a time travel device. Because I always felt that that was Caleb's secret, that Caleb was a time traveler in some weird way. But it never gets revealed as that. But I've always found that house interesting. What are your thoughts?
I thought that there were, you just got that feeling like we're building to something, and like Barnabas knew where to go to find. He was with them, and he went upstairs, and I think it was a handkerchief, and
Mhm.
so he knew the house, but it was almost like it it was like, and I'll even go even a further jump, and I just had this thought in my head when you were talking because you just struck a light bulb. It was almost like they were going to do a parallel. It's kind of like an offshoot of parallel time where you have to be in a space to do a time jump. So
Right.
that's really interesting. So yeah, I think that house is going to be used for all kinds of fun stuff.
That's my hope. I think another thing too is when they killed Dave Woodard,
Mm.
you now I don't think they knew for certain they were going to 1795. But to me, that was like the step toward it to me. Like the step going for like that was another step toward it. Like the death of Dave Woodard, because Dave was going to expose Barnabas. And so when they kill him, to me, that's a step forward. There's a sequence too with I think it's Julia Hoffman where she's in the mausoleum and you
Oh,
hear a woman laughing, and it's not Sarah, and this is pre 1795, that they haven't gone, Victoria hasn't gone back yet. So when you hear this, now Laura Parker was not cast at this point, but to you, let me ask some, is that Angelique we're hearing?
I think it's definitely somebody from 1795.
Right.
I mean, and I don't know if I could, if I think it was Angelique. I don't know if they were thinking that far ahead, but it's certainly maybe somebody evil from that time, because of course there had to be an evil entity to curse Barnabas from that time.
Right.
And but I agree, 1795, it was a kind of a drip water torture. I mean, it was this, and I mean, it was a slow build. I mean, there were all kinds of things happening to basically push little Sarah over the edge, because I think she's the one that caused the time jump.
Sarah is really good in this. I mean, Sharon Lynn's just sells. I mean, she literally is this little girl who you literally fall in love with, and just like you're sort of rooting for this ghost in a weird way. Not to necessarily hurt Barnabas, but to sort of turn him around a bit. And I love the interaction between her and Jonathan Fred, where
Oh,
in the old house, right? What are your thoughts on that?
well, let me think about that for a second. She was such a sweet she was such a sweet girl, and I think I've said this before. She saw her family destroyed once. She became friends with her cousin David, and by God, she was not going to let that happen again. And I just remember when you heard the sound effect for the wind and the chandelier started moving, and Jonathan Frid at that it got Barnabas's attention, and those front doors to the old house, they were thrown open with anger.
Mhm.
They were thrown, I swear, Jewel, they were thrown open with anger. And there's Sarah, and she is not a happy camper.
No,
That's my feeling.
I love when he kneels down. He's sort of somber. He's sort of upset, like sad in a way. But she's telling him, like, you taught me a lesson about good and evil. You need to learn that lesson over again. And
Right.
I think that's so well said by this little girl who did learn from her older brother, sort of reminding him, hey, you got to learn this all over again because you can't be like this.
Mm-hmm.
And I always, to me, when I think of the seance, I
Mm.
think of I think of post crucifixion, well, pre crucifixion, where one of the apostles denies Jesus, and Jonathan Fred as Barnabas is denying, like, oh, I don't know Sarah, and he's telling Carol, he's like watching Carolyn fake it. it's like you know
Well, yeah, and I believe, and it's been a while since I've seen that scene, but I believe was it who was starting to get they were channeling it through. Was it through Victoria? And I think it was Sarah. And I think that just pushed Sarah over there. No, don't listen to her. That's not true. And it was just going into that crescendo where it just, the Collins family was on the verge of being destroyed again, because he was
yeah.
going to kill David. He had bitten Carolyn. It was not going on, and that just was the peak. It's just like, that's it. Now Carolyn's faking it, and they're all lying. It's just, that's part of the evil. I mean, there was a some of Barnabas that was still good, but the evil part had just practically taken everything over. That's how I feel.
I think Carolyn, unlike Willie, where Willie was really not wanting to do things, because Willie had, I think, once the difference between Willie and Carolyn is Willie did not enjoy working for Barnabas, where Carolyn, she loved it. Like, she enjoyed the power.
Mm-hmm.
But that seance, when she starts faking it, and then Sarah sort of is jumping into Victoria, that's not true. That's not. And Barnabas, I love Fred just sort of shaking his head no at Carolyn, like, no, don't just let it happen because he can't do nothing to stop it now.
Mm-mm.
He just, nope, you've messed up too much now. Now you're gonna face some consequences here, because what he doesn't realize is Vicky's about to go back.
I guess you.
Right. Phyllis Phyllis Wick who is your governess who gets hanged, in 1795. I love my favorite part about 1795 is the difference between Vicky and Phyllis's
Mm-hmm.
hell, because Victoria is arrested prior to Barnabas being bit. Phyllis wasn't arrested until they took the coffin to the mausoleum, meaning after Barnabas had actually died. So Phyllis knew Barnabas at least died.
Mm-hmm.
And so I love the fact that literally there's two women who had two completely different journeys, and the look on Fred's face is priceless.
Yeah, I agree. Well, I don't want to jump towards the
Right.
end. His the look on his face, and when they picked it up at the end of the arc, and he had a line, Jewel, I don't remember what he went, "Who are you?" Because she knew. I mean, she, like you said, and it's like, who are it, he lost for the first time since he was bitten. He had lost control and the power. He no longer, I mean, he was still a vampire, but he did not have he had been defanged to an extent. Pardon the
Right.
true.
So the host jumped, but
Sorry.
no, the host is that raw hair. But so Vicky goes back. You have Phyllis exchanged for Vicky. Vicky is now standing in 1795 with the Collins family history book in street clothes, 60s clothes, looking at the house. What are your thoughts on Vicky's just meeting Barnabas sort of all over again?
As a fan, it was eerie, but it was like exciting. And well, I knew it was going to happen because how can you keep spoilers from happening after 50 plus years?
Right.
But but you just, what, how is this dialogue going to go? And she's meeting Barnabas, but the nice Barnabas, how he originally was, and he's kind of like that debonair late 18th century WASP American with manners and gallantry, and was very kind. And it was eerie because she's old house. I mean, it's an old house that looks really new, and you were just kind of like second to second, how is this going to play out? And here she is wearing clothes from 1967, which aren't even close to what they were wearing in 1795 in New England.
I love how she's like, what are you wearing? Why are you wearing it? He goes, well, what are you wearing?
Exactly.
Like, you're hardly dressed at all. Like, what is this? But I just think that the differences between here's this woman who, and in the 60s, lifestyle for women were different in the 60s than they were in 1795. Whereas in 1795, they were treated like second rate citizens, even less than that. So, I mean, a woman could not speak up to a man in 1795 or they would get, but
Exactly.
it just, so you're sort of like worrying for Vicky, like, oh shit, girl, you've stepped in it here.
It's like it's like all I could think of was how is she going to operate? How is this going to play out?
Right.
And you make a good point. She was a woman of the 60s, and that's just when women's liberation was starting to take hold, and the whole thinking about the role of women was changing, and she's just gone 2 centuries back. And how is she gonna navigate that?
When I saw her faint, like when she's standing there, Nathan Forbes, Naomi Collins, Barnabas, they're all standing in the drawing room of the old house, and that Nathan is reading the wedding invite of Josette and Barnabas, and the year of our Lord 1795, and she faints. And at that moment when she fainted, I thought of one character, and that was Joan Bennett's not Naomi, but Elizabeth, because Elizabeth told her the past isn't as romantic as you think. It's dangerous, and it's, and I thought about that. I'm thinking, man, how dangerous really we're about to find if Elizabeth was right.
Mm.
And when she wakes up and meets Abigail, you quickly learn, yes, she is right. What were your thoughts on Abigail Collins?
Well, Abigail, you know, in some ways, I think that a lot of families have that person, that judgmental, they're going to know it all, holier than thou,
Right.
a person. And she just, and just needling, always causing a problem. But Abigail kind of had some power and say, because she was the sister of the master of the house. And she's just the dark side of, say, Naomi Collins, and she's going to be a problem. She's that New England, pardon my French, stick up your ass, you
Yeah.
know, uh, spinster that doesn't have anything better to do but just boss people around. And then, as we find out later, using religion as a weapon.
Yeah. This is something that you see you sort of see today too, where people will use religion as a weapon, where it's, oh, you've wronged God, I'm his messenger, and it's like, well, wait, what? No, but it's not as severe as it was back then. But this here, I love how she's already ready to like accuse her of stuff, and like her clothes are suspect and everything. What did you think of Naomi and Joshua's relationship?
I thought, well, when I say tragic, I mean, I think Naomi really did love Joshua. I
I
mean,
did.
she loved him. And Joshua, to a certain extent, I mean, I think he did love her, but he was raised to be just tough as nails, and how a family should operate in a certain way. And sometimes age hardens you, and any kind of softness that they might have had early in their marriage, she was still that way, but he was just getting tougher and tougher and tougher. And I just found it very tragic and sad. um and there you have Joan Bennett as Naomi, and for her to cope with it, she had to do day drinking. you
Yeah,
know you just knew that she wasn't happy. I mean, I think she was like her descendant Elizabeth. She was kind, and she had a lot of heart. She loved her children, and she loved Victoria, and she was the polar opposite of Abigail.
I've given my theory about Naomi. I think there's a darker side to her. But
Oh yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
she she really she really is just this, because her and Joshua's relationship, their marriage is arranged. And here's the thing, I think that's the biggest difference with Josette and Barnabas. Their marriage isn't arranged, it's by choice.
Mm-hmm.
And so here's these two couple, Naomi and Joshua. In short, I agree with you. Naomi did love Joshua. I think Joshua was such a hard ass. Like literally, he could not look at that woman and say, "I love you," even though he had two kids to her, for the life of him, until at the moment of her death, where it's like he realized, I just lost the woman I love. Where reality had finally, I know I'm jumping, so I apologize again, but reality finally hit home for Joshua when Naomi died.
Mm-hmm.
Like a lot of reality. Because here what again, Joshua is he's sort of like that guy from Ferris Bueller's Day Off, where he would shit a diamond. He really is this hard ass. He's so hard nosed. He cannot tell anyone that he loves. He can't show emotion like through the whole thing until it's too late almost. And it's insane to me that someone could be that hard, you know, as a person to their wife, to their kid, to their son, to their, well, even to his brother, to his, who he treated like a kid, to his you know, his own daughter. I mean, he wasn't as hard with Sarah because I don't think he had a lot of interaction with Sarah, but you could just tell Joshua was a hard-nosed son of a bitch. I agree with you. It's their relationship is interesting as hell. Like I that's why I say I don't think Naomi, that's why I think too Naomi was a pirate, because there's a part of Naomi where she has this look of when, and I know it's, people are gonna say it's Trask. Yeah, true, Trask is evil. But when she smacks Trask, she
Oh,
dares smack me back. Because I'm thinking, wait a second, where did that, you don't just, even if you were a person of rich power, a woman would not touch a man, like at all. This is somebody to me who was accustomed to dealing damage. This, that Trask was not the first person Naomi ever hit, is what I'm saying. And that's where I sort of saw a sword in her hand, a pirate hat. This woman lived another life prior to this, as maybe as a young teen, before she ever met Joshua. I think there was something more violent to this woman at one point in time. And here's the thing: there's already one lie about Naomi, her death, because her death isn't
no.
reported till later. So why isn't there this other lie? Who's to say she wasn't a pirate? I have no proof that she is, but I have always found Joshua and Naomi the most interesting couple of all, of it all.
Well, the pirate. First of all, she's smart as hell,
Yeah, she
and
is.
I don't think Joshua would have married some frilly, airhead. I couldn't stand it. So he wanted a consort. He wanted somebody. First of all, you had to be smart as hell to run a big household like that.
Yeah,
So she's no shrinking violet, and then you have to remember when they got married, they were probably in the throes of the revolution. And
yeah,
that's a whole nother discussion. We see it on TV and films. It was nasty. You could be
yeah.
standing there in battle and the cannonball came and you're looking at your best bud and you just see his head lopped off and no head because the cannonball. I mean, it was a really awful, awful time. I've read a lot about it and I have my own ancestors in Maine were involved in it. And you have to be tough to survive that and smart. And it could have been that she was a pirate. I love that. That's a whole another Dark Shadows universe that I find fascinating. Or she could have been fending off the Brits during the Revolution. I mean, all kinds of, but she went through something. I agree. Because not only did she slap a man when she hit Trask, she slapped a congregational minister in 1795. And if people read about how much power the Congregationalist church, it's not really an organized church, but they had a lot of power, especially from the Puritan times, that there was that law. And that was the law. It wasn't like what we know now. It came from their church. And that was a big deal. You're right, Joel. That was a really big deal when she slapped Trask. She wasn't afraid. She was not going to put up with this crap.
It's weird because even though they aren't those priests weren't cops, they were sort of had the power to take you to jail without actually literally saying you're under arrest. That's how insane it was, the insane their power was. And because I remember talking when I was a kid, talking to a Catholic priest about that in the church, And he said, yeah, they had a lot of power. And yeah, they could take you to jail. If they thought, if they could literally accuse you of being a witch and take you to jail. And I'm
Mhm.
like, really? Just say you're a witch? Yeah, yeah. And it's just that simple of how crazy times were. I agree with you. The revolution's a whole nother thing too, because again, those houses weren't just built as houses. And Patrick McRae brought this up too. They were built strategically.
Right.
That's why there's escapes and there's tunnels and there's jails too,
Hmm.
because in case they captured somebody, they had to lock them away. So, and I think that's just it. The Collins family literally, they didn't just build their houses; they fought for their land, literally. So, what what are your thoughts on Angelique? Here's Laura Parker. We're meeting Angelique. What were your thoughts on her?
Well, I have to be cliche. I mean, after I get over how beautiful Laura Parker was,
Right?
is, I don't, I was, she's a beautiful person. Um, there were, I just, you just knew from the beginning, because there was a scene, Jewel, I don't know if you remember what it was, basically when Josette comes, and they're almost like friends. They're holding hands and they're speaking. It's the only time in the whole show this happened, but they were speaking to each other in French. Do you remember
Yep.
that? So
Yes, I
those
do.
two were really close. I mean, of course, one was, a servant, and the other one was, her mistress, but it was almost like a sisterly thing. That's just something that I kind of felt, because they were pretty close. But then you have Barnabas, who it comes in, and she really thinks that Barnabas is not going to marry Josette, and they had a hot and heavy in Martinique. I
Yep.
mean, it was the 60s daytime television, and you could only say so much, but I'm seeing it as through the eyes of a 58-year-old, and it's like, you kind of, you don't think Barnabas as a cad, but he was having a hot and heavy, and I would say romantic interlude over a period of time at Martinique while he's here courting Josette. And dude, you got yourself into trouble, and unbeknownst to you, you just had this relationship with the wrong person. And whatever you want to say about Angelique, she truly loved Barnabas. It wasn't something sick. I guess maybe it was a little obsessive, but she loved him, and she was a woman scorned.
Right. Here's this. I think that exactly right. My wife was watching Dark Shadows with me one time.
Mm.
When Angelique walked in and her and Barnabas started talking, my wife goes, "You can tell they fucked." Like, they what?
That
I'm like, she goes, the characters. She goes, the characters. I'm like, Angelique and Barnabas had sex. She goes, oh yeah, you can tell. So I was like, how can you tell that? She goes, body language. So, however, Fred and Laura Parker were able to like throw that off is beautiful, because they had to throw it off for someone to pick it up. It just did. So here's these two characters. I agree with you. They had a romantic relationship in Martinique. And, Barnabas, no, he didn't know she was a witch. But again, I always look at Barnabas like a mini Bruce Wayne. He was like a playboy in a way. So he here's this beautiful blonde. And it's like, hey, why not? She's this beautiful island girl. And he ended up falling in love with Josette, who, happens to this blonde is her servant. And it's like, ah, shit.
sucks to be you, Barnabas. I'm sorry. I mean, we all make decisions. But yeah, please tell your wife she totally got it, because when I was watching that, because they were talking about all those romantic nights, and I'm like, whoa, they had sex. They were having sex.
Right. And that's the thing too. It's like, here's these two characters that had sex. that had a relationship, and here's this guy who's going to marry this girl's, you know, she's a servant to the now person he's going to marry, and it's like, seriously, dude, seriously, it's like this isn't. It's the insanity of Barnabas's life. It's like literally Barnabas had one of the worst bad luck situations because here's a woman he wants to marry. Oh, but by the way, right over here next to her is the woman you had sex with.
Awkward,
Right.
I mean, this was awkward.
I agree. It's crazy too because Angelique, you can tell she's feeling all of it. Like she's just like, God damn it, he's gonna choose it. She doesn't say, God damn it, he's gonna choose me, but Laura Parker's body language gives it off, where he's either gonna pick me or else.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, she says it enough times where she's threatening. She almost chokes Barnabas. She almost kills Sarah. And it's like my favorite part. I want to get your thought about this. Before she turns Joshua into a cat, Ben is saying about, can you turn him into a jackass? He's gonna take
I'm so glad you brought that scene up. Anyway, go ahead, finish your thought.
But yeah, he says, I'll take the jackass in the woods, and me and that jackass will spend like a lot of time. And I'm like, oh my God, Ben's got issues.
Well, there was that whole thing. I mean, there David was really getting into it because here, poor Ben's got control of, Angelique got control of Ben, and he's like, oh, Miss Angelique, and then he's getting into it. And do you remember the scene where she's forming the cat and she turns into the cat and they're laughing and he's into it? He says, hey, I'm with you. I'm into this. I'm into getting it. And they're laughing and went, oh man, this has gotten really evil because now there's Ben laughing with Angelique. I'm
And
sorry.
really,
Half of me was laughing because Joshua was such an ass.
right, it's like, if this were Barnabas, you'd sort of feel sorry. But
Right.
Joshua, it's like, that son of a bitch is getting what he deserves. And that's
It's like a Simpsons. I mean, it's just there was a little kind of like there's a little bit of justice there.
I mean, here's Ben, who was supposedly in jail, right? And he's having to work off the call, the college film.
It's like an indenture. He was like an indentured servant.
Right. And Barnabas is his one true friend.
Yeah.
And Joshua is an ass to everybody, but Joshua is especially an ass to Ben.
Yeah.
So when Joshua gets turned into a cat, Ben's enjoyed the hell out of that shit. Like, I'm sure, like, if he could, like, talk to Angelique, are you sure we can't turn him into a jackass just one time? One time.
I know.
Like, just one. I swear, I will do whatever you want one time. And I swear, I think if Angelique would have turned him into like a donkey, a jackass, I swear to God, I think Ben would have been more loyal to her.
Mm-hmm.
I think he would have done. I don't think he would have chose her over Barnabas, but he would have definitely been a little more loyal to her.
Mm-hmm.
I do. It's crazy how, and again, I think even Angelique was sort of mortified by his suggestion of it. She's like, Ben, like what the like,
Slow
the
down,
witch,
man.
right? The witch is sort of like, what? No, we're not doing that. It's beautiful. It's beautiful.
That was I love. I'm so glad you picked up on that. I feel the same way.
It's like, it's fun, and it's like, oh my God, like there's some heavy shit here, and it's great. It's 1795 for as dark as it is. There's some fun moments where you're just going, oh shit. But after finally, I love how they have the cat in Vicky's room and we know it's Joshua, and finally he changes back.
Wasn't that happened in front of Abigail, didn't it? And that flash and all I was loving that shit. I that was like perfect. That was spot on.
Abigail's like, "What's that cat? Doesn't that cat ball?" No, the cat's been everywhere by this point.
Exactly. It's been all over the house.
Right? It's like the thing's been all over the house. So what if it's in Vicky's room? Like, who gives a shit?
Yeah.
But Abigail comes in and boom, there's Joshua like popping up. Oh my god! And she's like the look on her face is beautiful.
I love that scene. That's another one. You're picking all the great you're picking all the great scenes.
Well, what were your thoughts on this? Is sort of where she's even pushing further for the witch stuff because the cat in the room. So, what were your thoughts on here's Abigail? We see Joshua turn back from a cat to now a human, and now Abigail's pushing a little harder. Oh, it's her! It's her! She's a witch. What were your thoughts on that?
Well, I think at that point, the walls, it did happen in the room.
Right.
I think the walls are starting to close in on Vicky at that point. And I don't know, Joel, you'll have to remind me where we were in the timeline because I know you're the host, so I don't want to steal any thunder. But I don't know where we were or in the timeline because one of my favorite scenes in 1795 is when Vicky slaps Trask and tells him, "You're not a man of God, you're a fanatic." And that didn't help Vicky either, but she needed it. That is one of my favorite scenes in the entire 5 years of that show. I love that scene.
I think that is after the cat.
Okay.
Because they don't go for Trask right away. Like they don't bring Trask in like when Vicky first arrives.
Yeah.
I think they bring Trask in some right after the cat. And I do believe so. Listen, whoever's listening to this, if I'm wrong, please correct me.
Yeah.
But I do believe it's right after that. And I agree with you. The smack, that's a great scene. That's because even Countess Natalie Dupre is she's pushing for Trask too. It's not just Abigail. Remember, Natalie initially wanted Trask too, like to come, but even sort of after like the way Trask sort of grabbed Vicky and Vicky sort of slaps him, sort of Natalie sort of thinking, well, wait, I would have probably smacked him too if he had grabbed me like that.
It's like, don't touch. She told him not to touch her.
Right.
Right?
Yep. She's like, don't touch me. Don't touch me. And he's like, bam.
Oh. And I'm sorry. Alexandra she really did a great job with that. And I kind of remember a detail. Yeah, Abigail wanted to call. I'm calling this minister in from Salem.
Right. Yeah. Good news, folks. Yeah, no, not good news. No. Listen, they were drowning and lynching people for no reason. Salem. Yeah. So here comes this guy from Salem who he's looking at somebody. It did. That's the thing. It did. Phyllis Wick and Victoria Winter should teach you one thing. It didn't have to be Victoria Winters because Phyllis Wick is going to get hung up too. So it's like this is how driven this dude is to like find someone guilty of witchcraft just to make himself look good. And I mean, he is a fanatic. I mean, in every way. And that's how some villains are. Some villains are just fanatics, or they start off that way at least, and then they just go into deeper descent of becoming evil and just being bad. You know, what they would call in the shadow a menace. So Trask is sort of a menace. He's not as much of a menace as Angelique, but he's a menace. And so him sort of like the smack. I love it. You're right. The smacking, like boom, boom, they smack each other. It's beautiful. It's well done, well acted by Jerry Lacey and Alexander Isles. It's just a hell of a scene. It
I,
really.
I went back on my Twitter feed when I was posting about it, and I got a screenshot because I had to play it back. It just made such an impression on me. I just love that scene.
What were your so the wedding? When they do the wedding, you have Angelique, who's basically now plotted
Uh,
Jeremiah and Josette like to get married. I love how she ties a thing on Josette's dress, and it causes her to run away with Jeremiah. What were your thoughts on that sequence?
it was actually kind of tough to watch because it's like, hurry up and get married to Barnabas, so this isn't going to happen. And and there's Angelique just confident, and it was hard to watch because poor Josette is just that she doesn't know what's going on, and that the Angelique's power is going to take over, and it's just tragic. It's just you're watching this and you want to do something. I'm just talking about as a fan. You want to do something, and you
Oh,
can't because it's going to happen, and you can't stop it. But that was great writing, all that dramatic tension. But it's just total tragedy.
see, if it would have been me, if I'd have been standing in the like Abigail says, Reverend Trask, I'm going to raise my hand. Solomon Kane, Solomon Kane, not Reverend Trask, Solomon Kane. Many reasons. Number one, he actually is a witch hunter. Two, he's a way better shot with a pistol than Barnabas will ever be. like, like, and he's the best swordsman. So I have three legit reasons to want Solomon Kane, not Reverend Trask. I love Jerry Lacey. Jerry Lacey actually could have played Solomon Kane. He really like he could have. I wish in his prime we would have got Jerry Lacey's Solomon Kane because he would have been a hell of a Solomon Kane from the pulp comics. I don't know if you've ever seen the 2012 movie, but it's really great. Go watch it. It's on Tubi. But Jerry Lacey could have played Solomon Kane. If you ever get a chance, watch it. It's great. But I do think that Angelique's manipulation is just taking effect. Like here, because once the marriage falls apart of Josette and Barnabas, and now she's married Jeremiah, and this is something that was again everybody, Abigail, Barnabas heard Vicky say, it's sort of, man, again, the walls are closing in even further now because, and really, they're more or less trying to get Vicky, Alexander's character in jail to where, because 1795 isn't told through Vicky, it's told through the people who live it. Like
Correct.
Barnabas, Angelique, Josette, Jeremiah. Alexander was our vessel to get us there. Like her character, Victoria, I mean, she's a part of it in a way, but she's more our vessel to get us here to tell this story of what happened here. And it's beautiful, all of it. Like it's so. I'm sorry, I'm going to ask you a question. What were your thoughts on once they're married? Now you have the challenge for the duel.
You have the challenge for what?
The duel. I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. It just got everything started unraveling once they kind of like were at that inn, and after the wedding night was over, reality was setting in, and they had to go back. It was like, oh shit, what just happened? And they
Right.
had to go back and face the family, and it just deteriorated. And then you have the challenge for the duel, and it's like, this is going to be the end of Jeremiah because we know that Barnabas is going to go forward one way or the other.
Right.
And it was tragic, and it was just sad. It was just more sadness for the Collins family.
I think Angelique even came to the realization, oh shit, Barnabas can't shoot worth that goddamn.
Yeah,
like,
right.
like, she was sweating that door. like, oh shit. No. you know, but so after Jeremiah gets shot and he's laying in the bed with the bandages, Josette, Catherine, how great was Catherine Lee Scott as Josette, by the way? In your,
I think she played that part to the T. I mean,
yep.
this is where her training at the American Academy of Dramatic Arts. She was doing period piece, period costume, and she had to do all these ranges of emotions. And I love Barnabas, but now I love Jeremiah, and he's my husband. I've got to do this, and all the shit was happening. It was hard. I mean, Dan Curtis put Catherine Lee Scott through the ringer, but she did it. I mean, I was without a problem. I mean, there was never any flub, and her eyes, her concentration. I mean, she just played that part to the T. And that was after, no, I'm getting my timelines mixed up. I'm going to go there, but she was working really hard. I agree. She was brilliant.
Yeah, her performance as Josette. I mean, I know we saw her dressed as Josette in the '60s. When Barnabas kidnapped Maggie, but this was like a whole nother level, and I mean just a whole nother step up by Catherine Lee Scott. Just amazing. Don't get me wrong. I love Maggie Evans. I love her character, Maggie, but I love her as Josette because she does it right. And the cemetery sequence is the best payoff. I mean, Barnabas doesn't say shit to her because he knows he doesn't deserve to. And it's beautifully done by everybody. Catherine, Jonathan. It's a hell of a shot the way they did that at Jeremiah's grave.
I agree. I mean, there was so much going on at that point, and and they didn't have a lot of time to rehearse. I mean, I think she was really good at memorizing her lines, and that really helped her. But I'm repeating myself, but there's just a lot of ranges of emotions and tragedy going on. And I love my husband, but I love Barnabas, and we were able to pick all that up of how and why she was feeling it.
Yeah. What were your thoughts on, you have Joshua, Naomi, Abigail? They're moving out of the old house. They're going over to the great house. Barnabas and Angelique are they're getting married. Joshua's pissed. I mean, what isn't Joshua pissed at? But still.
Well, and Joshua's pissed for a couple of reasons, because socially it's totally unacceptable. It would have been totally unacceptable. Let me put my quotes, 60 or 70 years ago in a WASP family. It would have been a scandal. But you also I remember Joshua was going to sign a business contract with Josette's father.
Yeah.
Because they loved each other, but there was a business arrangement here with the shipping and the ships and all that. So Joshua was doubly pissed.
Yeah.
Because he loses money.
Yeah, he feels this business deal is now so sideways that he's not going to get it. I agree with you. Joshua's the one character that in many ways he has his fingers in a lot of pies.
Yeah.
Where, yes, great. My son's in love. Great. I got this business deal I'm tending with. You go get hitched, dude. Go ahead.
Right. Twofer.
Right. he's literally like, I got the money. Oh, you're married? Great. I don't give a shit.
Yeah. Show me the money, do whatever. It's like, whatever, dude. This is the it's all about the money.
It really is, and I love how now Josette's father, I do think he wanted her to be happy,
Yeah,
but,
I think
but
so.
he was about business too in some way. I think more Natalie is more, even though she's an aunt, she's more like a mother
Mother,
to
yeah.
to Josette, where she wants her to be happy. She wants her not to be sad or upset. Even when Jeremiah dies, she understands, but she does not want her niece to grieve herself to death. You know, and I think really the first person who's really scared of the prophecy of Josette's death is Natalie herself. Is well, because I think from after that she's basically doing everything in her power. Like, let's get the hell out of here. Leave Collinsport.
Exactly. Like they needed to get as far, at least to New York, but I think that they were on their way at least to New York and maybe wanting to go back to Martinique. It's like exactly, they just needed to get out of there. It was bad.
I think they do leave, but she comes back. Like, Josette comes back. I think
Right.
that's, and I think it's because of Angelique in a sense. Angelique sort of wills her back in a weird way. I do believe, if I'm not mistaken. For those listening, if I'm wrong, please correct me, because even though I'm young, I have a senior citizen brain. But so it's crazy. Dark Shadows is you could attest to this too. It's crazy. It's beautiful and crazy at the same time. What were your thoughts on Josette's and Vicky's sort of Josette telling Vicky, if Barnabas dies, I'll make sure you hang.
That was a little rough because we're so used to, oh, Josette,
Right.
she's so nice and blah blah blah. Well, she turned into I don't know how to say it, but she turned into kind of a raving bitch, and she was mean. And you know, and we all know and love Josette. She was kind of like the protector of the Collins family. But here's a whole nother side of Josette, and here's poor Vicky, who we all love Victoria Winters, and I'll say it
So
again, she was the heart. I know she's your favorite, and I love her. She was the heart and soul of the show. That was hard to hear, and I thought, man, this is getting rough. I mean, it's part of that journey that 1795 takes us, where it's getting darker and darker and darker. And Josette's anger and meanness is part of that.
the one thing that constantly ran through my mind when I'm watching 1795 is Elizabeth's words, and that sequence in the jail cell too. I'm I'm feeling
Oh,
sorry for Vicky. I
yeah.
am. I feel Alexander sells. Look, Alexander has always sell her ass off, and so is everyone else. But at the same time, I'm also hearing Elizabeth telling Vicky the past is dangerous, and in many ways, again, and this is sort of Barnabas's present day Barnabas's fault too, because Vicky, here's somebody who did not have an identity. She was searching for an identity, and that's part of the reason she was obsessed with the past. So now, being in the past, I think her biggest, where she finally realizes her biggest, where she realizes, okay, it's not great to be obsessed, is right there when the confrontation between her and Josette, because she's realizing, you know what? Okay, the past isn't the best thing, because Josette, yes, Josette is a sweet woman, but Josette has a fierce side to her, because Josette feels Vicky is the witch.
Right. And it must have been really hard for Victoria, because you have to remember Josette saved Vicky from Matthew Morgan. I
Yep.
mean, she's always there. And to go back and find, oh, it's not all sweetness and light. And I yeah, it's like, oh shit, I don't know. It's like, it's time to get back to the present because I'm not liking this. And this is kind of fucked up.
It is. I jumped a bit, so we'll jump back here.
That's okay. Yeah, I know. That's okay.
Barnabas Barnabas finds out about Angelique after Victoria runs out of the house, or door, because he realizes he heard her in another part of the room, in her old room. So when they're setting up for the turn for the bat, and he aims that pistol when she's jamming the pins into Sarah's doll. He shoots her in the shoulder. And again, I love Jonathan Fred. I love Barnabas Collins. But listen to, I want every Dark Shadows fan to listen to this when I say this. You're either a good shot with a gun or you're a bad shot with a gun. No one's both. And Barnabas Collins is a horrible shot with a gun. If that would have been Solomon Kane, we would not be having this discussion because he would have got there. But I think that's the thing. Barnabas he aims badly and he shoots her in the shoulder. So,
if you're gonna kill a witch, you've got to either do the whole thing or don't do it at all. It's no in between. There's only problems in between. I mean, that was one of those seminal moments in the entire series. That was great. It was great, right? Oh yeah, you're probably thinking Angelique's is dead. Well, how did he become a vampire? Well, because he was a shitty shot.
I mean, I give him credit for how they set this scene up and how they did it. But it's like, man, I love Barnabas, but man, you cannot. Your aim sucks, dude.
Yeah.
Look, Laura Parker, though. I mean, I know they're like the bat might look cheesy to some people, but I did not see. Like, I don't visualize the bat when I see it coming in. I just hear Laura Parker's words. I curse you, Barnabas Collins. I mean, I know she isn't saying it at that point in time, but her words just echo in your brain throughout. Just how amazing was that scene to you?
It was. I mean, her focus and her hate, because once she did that, there was no turning back. Maybe she thought she could. I don't think she was even thinking that. It was just pure. Hey, he should have like that hate and that focus. That's what he should have been doing with the gun. But with that being said, and she wasn't standing up. She was kind of like propped up and with her hands down, and those green eyes were looking right at him. And man, it's like you almost thought this was real, but it was great because the hate and the vitriol and the evilness of the curse went right there. So you're exactly right. It was a great scene. And
I
the
love how
bat 1960 was 1968, 67, 68. It's daytime. They did the best they could, and Bill Bard was the best in the business. So that was kind of a technical aside, but they did as good a job as they could have.
I think your mic. Can you try that again? Sorry.
Can you hear me okay now, Joel?
Go ahead, say that again.
Can you hear me okay?
I don't think it's how close or away you are. It just sounded like the mic had cut out a bit. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay. Can you hear me okay now?
I can hear you. It just sounds like I can hear you good. It just sounds like you're far away is all.
Okay, I'll stay closer to the phone. I might have went back too far.
It's okay. I can hear you.
Okay.
I like how she collapses and he's just like, Angelique, like, he's still like, dude, you just shot her. But what did you think? I love what you said about the bat. I think they did a great job. I love it. It never gets corny or old. When it crashes when you hear that glass break, it's amazing. So I'm with you all the way. it's a hell of a scene. What what were your thoughts when the bat is literally biting Barnabas?
Oh, well, I thought that is a big ass bat, and it's scary because we think of bats as being little, but there's the super bat, and it's in his neck, and he's yelling, and it's creepy. I mean, if you're a kid watching that, you're going to be scared of a giant bat biting you. So it was creepy. It was a
Yeah.
little, it was a little hard to watch because it was the beginning. It was the beginning of the end of Barnabas as we knew him as a nice guy.
Yeah, that bite happens and he's laying, and once they get him, he's laying on the ground. Angelique, I love how Laura Parker, Angelique, is scrubbing the blood.
That's right. I did too. Yeah. Go ahead.
No, she's scrubbing the blood off the floor. And Naomi walks in.
Sorry. I know. I was thinking the same thing. That's a great point.
What were your thoughts on that? Like her just trying to scrub the blood.
Well, I have to give her credit for doing it, but it kind of shows you that maybe Angelique, maybe you went a little bit too far on this one because you're really starting to get tangled up in that web. And it kind of shows the walls are kind of an early showing of the walls closing in on her.
Yeah. It really, to me, like even prior to this, after they get married, she sees Jeremiah's ghost, zombie ghost. That to me is like, things are going to go bad for Angelique, but things have gone severely bad now. It's like, girl, the roller coaster is going down.
Well, I mean, it's just her and Barnabas in the house, and they have, Ben in there, and that it's kind of like the fall of the house of Collins in the old house. I mean, the situation's deteriorating quickly in the old house.
Yeah. It makes me think of Angelique's cards when she was burning them and they were falling. Because everything now, how she lit those cards on fire and they were falling down. To me, that was everything falling apart for Vicky. Now, the shoe's on the other foot.
Right.
There might not be no cards, but everything is literally coming down around her. Even tenfold. Like there's nothing she can do now to undo what she just did. And here's Barnabas laying there. I love the sequence with Josette being in the room. You know, her and Barnabas, like you could tell, really Josette really did love Barnabas.
Yeah, she was there for him at his natural end.
Right. Yep. What were your thoughts on? Because by this time, Vicky is well in jail, and we've talked about the confrontation between Josette and Vicky. We have Barnabas die. They carry him to the mausoleum. What were your thoughts on? We know what's coming, right? We know the vampire, like he's going to become a vampire. What were your thoughts on that? Them carrying the coffin to the mausoleum.
Well, it was kind of a transition, wasn't it?
Yep.
We're going from life to the living dead. That you knew what was going, and Angelique knew what was going to happen, so she was trying to. I think she was at that point trying to get out of there. So it was just a matter of time what was going to happen.
I love how she's telling him, I need a steak. I'm like, girl, you need a lot of things. But I love how Laura Parker she does this so well. She's standing there with the coffin. She's like this, and then he's like choking her I love that scene. What were
It,
your thoughts on that?
I thought that it was kind of unexpected because I didn't know that Angelique was going to die, but
Right.
he was pissed. I mean, he was pissed. It's like, look what you just did to me, and I'm done with you, and you're going down, and you can't stop me now because I'm already dead. Like, what? You can't take this curse off of me. There's nothing else you could do to me. You played every game that you can, and it's over. And that's kind of like the new Barnabas, where when he goes on a rampage.
He really, after this, Ben is serving him, and I mean, it is just my favorite part of 1795 is when he goes all in on Trask. I mean, he literally is torturing the shit out of Trask before he bricks him up into the wall.
Oh, that scene was, I'm telling you, and you could see Jerry Lacey's eyes. And, I'm claustrophobic as it is. And I'm going, dang, it's so good. I mean, of course, it's right at Edgar Allan Poe, but they use it so effectively. And as sick as it is, you're really glad that Barnabas is doing this because this man is just evil. I mean, you just got to get rid of him.
I like how Joshua tries to bring in this elder woman. I want to call her. I don't know if she's a witch doctor or what, but they're trying to bring her in to sort of get rid of Barnabas's curse, and it does not go good.
But can I, Joel, I Bathia Mapes.
Yep.
I posted this when I was actually watching it. Scott picked up. He says, "I love Bathia Mapes." She, to me, I'm not really sure. Maybe she's a white witch. I don't
Right.
know. But that's when it was starting to get into this. Boy, you're really kind of feeling old school New England legends here. I loved her. I loved that whole part when they brought her in. Of course, it didn't end well because of frickin' Angelique, but we got really close of curing Barnabas. But I just love the whole feeling and the scenes and the actress, and I love that. I thought it was great.
It the biggest thing to me is how we find out about the lies of 1795 because what Vicky knows in that book, now not everything Barnabas went in, but Vicky believes. Well, we know that's a lie. And we know why the lies are told because Josh was a proud son of a bitch and he's not going to have things exposed as the truth, especially scandals. So he even writes that Jeremiah didn't die in a duel, that Jeremiah is still alive. That and Barnabas is just like, I wish that were true. Like it's there's so much heartbreak by the end of this. It's crazy because Barnabas is sort of feeling it. And I know I'm jumping a bit, so I apologize, but there's because I know Naomi, that was after Naomi's death, but and I think that's a sequence to me. I know Sarah's death is heartbreaking. Like, you know what I mean? When he hugs Sarah, that's one of the most heartbreaking moments in the series. What are your thoughts on that?
I totally agree. I mean, there was beautiful Joan Bennett as it was playing as the mom,
Mhm.
and she just, we all love Sarah from seeing her as a ghost, and then seeing how it happened, uh, and how she got sick, basically getting pneumonia, sitting and waiting for Barnabas. I mean, it was heart wrenching, and Sharon Smith just played it so well, and it was heartfelt by Jonathan Frid.
Yeah, it really that hug too,
Yes.
where Sarah, I love you, Barnabas, and he goes, Sarah, I love you too, and he's hugging her. It's like, oh shit, like he's like, it's a great, it was a great acting by both of them. I mean, the cast of Dark Shadows will never get enough credit for just how well they sold when not just by themselves, but when they were with each other, playing off of each other. I'm with you. I love the sequence where Naomi's writing this note, the suicide. basically, and she drinks the poison and then goes up to the tower. It's like, damn, girl, like this is all part of Angelique's curse, like but it's
Well,
like, go ahead, sorry.
no, I'm just well, and well, and in the middle of all this, how Nathan Forbes turns from like a what you could say was part of the curse, from like just a randy junior naval officer to like a major son of a bitch. And
Yeah,
not only that happens, and then his freaking wife shows up, Suki Forbes, who is on the Jason McGuire, Willie Loomis track with Barnabas. Suki Forbes doesn't get mentioned a lot, but I'm going to do a little shout out to Suki because I posted on Twitter. I said, just like Jason McGuire, you and Willie, you got a little too greedy there, Suki. R.I.P. That, but and then Nathan, Joel Crothers just. I mean, oh God! I mean, Nathan Forbes just. I mean, he was, making, you know, uh, what was Nancy Barrett's character?
Millicent.
Millicent crazy, and then he was going to kill, uh, her brother. I can't think of David Hennessy's which Collins he was at that point, but Nathan Forbes is just going insane, and that's
Yeah.
kind of an extension of the curse. Everything was going insane, and that beautiful scene with when Naomi dies,
Yeah.
and and Joshua's having a moment. Things were just amping up, amping up, amping up, and they were, like you were saying, they did a phenomenal job.
Yeah, Suki. When I saw Suki walking, I'm just like, dead girl walking, because you knew this woman was gonna get killed, and when he goes, go to the old house. I'm like, I need the Grim Reaper music to start playing. This girl's gonna die.
I, she walks around like her shit doesn't stink, and she was like a freaking know-it-all. I said, girl, you were way over your head.
she she dies, and Nathan gives a shit. It's like, dude, I get you didn't know about the vampire and stuff, and that's all well and good. But like, dude, a moment ago you were just ready to get rid of this girl. Now you give a shit.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, anyway, I just wanted to give a little shout out to the family Forbes there, who there were just some interesting things going on there.
They need a Forbes like that in Haddonfield, and Michael Myers can just stalk the shit out of them. They can have even better luck there. I, I, I guarantee you they will be 86 times 12 after that shit. But it's it's crazy because after she dies and then Millicent finds out, well, that was your wife. It's like, uh-oh. And then because he's testified against, that's to be what he makes a decision to testify against Vicky. So, Trask will now speak on his behalf, and he does. Joshua does not want him around, even after that.
Mm-hmm.
I give Joshua credit. He has completely washed his hands of the trial. He's like, nope, 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 nope. And he, he doesn't give a shit, but Trask does talk to Millicent and stuff. And I love the fact that you literally have Millicent forgive him. They get married. He is just a tool.
He is, and I love how, I think it was that great scene with the bartender, what was not the blue whale but the eagle,
Right.
and it was Barnabas and Forbes in the eagle, and you know what's coming.
Mm-hmm.
And you're kind of glad it is, because Forbes basically killed Naomi.
Yeah. Forbes has done everything to basically get to ask for death. I mean, he and Barnabas is all too willing to give it to him. I love the sequence in the old house where he's begging Joshua, Mr. Collins, like, dude, I just wanted to tell. I just like wanted a time machine and like tell. Like, let me get this straight. You're going from one mean son of a bitch to another mean son of a bitch to ask for help. Good luck with that, buddy.
And I love Louis, Louis Edmonds, his Joshua, and what his whole response was to that. It was perfect. He said, "I know what's going to happen. It's what time it's going to happen, and I can't watch it. Basically, he said, peace out. I'm out of here. I'm not going to watch. I know it's going to happen. I just don't want to be here when it happens." And Forbes like, what just happened? Nobody's there to help him, but nobody feels sorry for him.
And Ben adds this to this too. He's like, I want to kill him. Ben starts laughing at him. He goes, the only way you can kill him is by finding his coffin before sunrise and putting a stake through his heart. It's like, dude, no one gives a shit about you. Even Josh was not going to watch your death, and that's saying something, considering how cold-blooded that son of a bitch is. When the most cold-blooded son of a bitch of Collinsport does not want to watch your death, you fucked up.
Yeah.
But I love the sequence in the room in Joshua's study, what they call later Jeremiah's study, but how the door opens, he shoots him and he misses his heart, and he totally just kills Nathan. I mean, what a sequence. It's one of the best. I love the brick up, but my favorite death is Nathan Forbes.
It was pretty good, and he doesn't bite him. From what I remember, I think it was strangulation.
Yeah.
And he just kind of goes fuzzy, no, and there's Joel Crothers screaming. It's like, dude, you're going down. You're done. You're done. The Collins family's done with you. No, it was because I think they were showing, Jonathan Fritz footsteps as he was going. It was like old school scare. It was great.
Yeah. When he comes back, he does bite him. When he teleports himself back to, I think, 1796, he does bite him and make him sign the paper. But now when we get to Vicky is going to be hung, Trask is walled up. We have, Joshua has done everything now that Barnabas has asked. He's even set Ben free. He's tried to call the governor, write the governor, but they're not listening. They're going to hang Vicky here. Angelique's dead, but not gone. But what were your thoughts on now Vicky? Because we're going back to, present day. What were your thoughts on this whole sequence here?
You mean the sequence of like towards the end when she was in jail, and are you talking about the episodes were right when they were getting ready to send her to the gallows?
When they send her to the gallows, and when the gallows sequence, when they're going to send her back. Sorry.
Okay. Thank you for asking me that question, because Joel, I think that may be my most, if it's not my favorite, one of my most favorite sequences in the entire series. I had to watch it twice. And Dan Curtis directed those 2 episodes. And it was, you're watching her, they're putting the noose around her neck, they put the bag, and then they pull whatever they pull, and it shows her. I think that's how that first episode ended, with her hanging there.
Yeah.
And it was a little hard to watch. Did you want me to go into my comment on episode 461 when they make the jump?
Sure, go ahead.
So I'm sitting there, and you have Nancy Barrett doing the narration. Oh, God, it was just so well done. They're showing the clock, and the clock had stopped. Yeah. And everyone, it was like she did such a great job, and how it was written, and they showed everybody in this great lineup in the drawing room frozen. And it was meant a little bit more to me because it was in April of 2020. And at that point, we're all on lockdown. And it was like time had stopped. And I'm going, holy shit, how timeless is this freaking show? I'm watching it and I'm kind of going through this in my own life because we're on lockdown and everything had stopped. And it showed that damn clock. And then as soon as the clock moved, they all started talking and they had that interaction with Phyllis Wick. And you'll have to correct me. I think the lights went out or something. Phyllis Wick collapsed because she was feeling the noose.
Mm.
And when she fell to the floor and they turned her over, it was Vicky. And there was so much chaos going on. And it's like, we just went through a lot. I went back and watched those two episodes twice because I'm still processing it. I know I'm sounding like a crazy DS geek fan, but I just loved it, Joel. I think it was phenomenal.
No, it's just that exciting to watch. And that's the thing. When Phyllis Wick, Jonathan Frid's look at Phyllis Wick, like, shit. Yeah. Like, if Barnabas could have got away with like shooting that woman, well, let's not give him a gun. But if he could have got away with choking her, he would have. But there's so many people who's like, what are you doing here?
Yes.
And I mean, it's so like, oh shit, she knows him and he knows her. It's a beautiful sequence, but like you said, she starts feeling it, the collapse, then it's Vicky, and now Barnabas is like, I love the line from Alexander, Barnabas, I thought you were dead. And he's like, ah, shit, nah, come on.
There's so much going on, and then she's going, Mrs. Collins, Mrs. Collins, and Liz Stoddard's going, Mrs. Collins. I mean, because she's still, her mind's still back. She doesn't know that she's back yet, and there's just a lot going on in the first 10 minutes of that episode. It was great, and even Carolyn's kind of freaking out.
There is something we did skip over, but we'll cover it right now. We'll cover it right now. The death of Josette. So they. Here's the thing too. There was a great question someone had asked on Twitter: was Josette one of the widows? Or was Widow's Hill a legend because of Josette? And I said no, because the Widow's Hill was already a legend, and the widows were already a legend prior to Josette's death. They were first before her,
right?
And it's crazy to think, because I could see why some people might think that, because Josette's legend is so huge. It doesn't quite eclipse the widows themselves, but it almost does. What are your thoughts of her death, her leaping off Widow's Hill? Well,
well, what else is there to say? But it was really tragic.
Yeah.
And from what I remember, like, Angelique plotted that.
Yes, she did.
And that made Barnabas hate her even more. And, Josette was just an innocent party to all this. And I think she had been bitten, but she had turned into a vampire, and she didn't necessarily mean she was going to turn into one. But it was she didn't want to be that. And Barnabas was scaring her. Barnabas was trying to help her, and she leapt over, and it was probably one of the seminal moments of the entire series. I think it was very well done, and again, Catherine Lee Scott played it really well, and it was filmed really well.
I love how the fact that Barnabas gives her the onyx ring, and it's even in the legend of Josette, if she loses a ring she's given, she's going to die, and she does lose it before she jumps. And Angelique is sort of tormenting Barnabas and her, and she shows her what Barnabas intends to do, and she goes towards Wither's Hill. He's going after her. It's again, it's one of the most heartbreaking. There's a lot of heartbreaks in 1795, but Josette's death, even though you know it's coming, and it's still heartbreaking because here's a character that it's like, wow, you knew this woman was a ghost, but still, like, she did not deserve to die that way.
Right.
She just didn't. Like the biggest difference is the widows willingly jumped that we know of.
Correct.
Josette was not a willing, she was magically jumped off, if you will. And I think that's what I find most crazy about it and sort of sinister in a weird way.
It's all a Greek tragedy.
Yep.
You know, that we throw that term around, but if you read Greek tragedies, you know, like Oedipus Rex and all the great ones, this is Greek tragedy going on. And it's sad. No, yeah, none of us want it to happen, but we thought, well, maybe we can get out of this, but it just didn't happen.
I hope, like, I know you've heard the announcement, and so I think it's December 19th, where they're doing a Christmas Carol. Alexander Isles is coming back.
You were the first person I thought of when I saw that this morning.
Listen, we're going to touch upon this before we go, but I hope, my biggest hope of all this, that's about to that's going to happen in December, is that some way, somehow, Mark B. Perry is paying attention to what's going on, and he gets them together and says, okay, I want you all to come back for the new series.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
But that's my hope, and I do hope that Alexander, going off of this, is here to stay, and David Hennessy. I mean, they all the time is now. You know what I mean?
Well, I was thinking about you a lot this morning because that you were the first person I thought of, because we had this conversation that, this is our dream cast, and they never get David Hennessy back or Alexandra, and wouldn't that be great? But you know what? That was like the realm of impossibility. Now it just got closer, and they need a really strong producer, because the producers that make it happen, to get them over here. I don't know what it's going to take, because, obviously David's down in Panama. Alexandra might be a little easier, but this may be the first step. I hope it's a great experience, because now maybe it's going to happen. We're closer. I'm not saying it is, but I thought what you just said is exactly what I was thinking this morning.
Here's what I'll say too, and I'm not trying to start a rumor or anything. I don't find this what they're doing now, what they're going to be doing in December 19th. It's not. I don't think it's by accident. I do honestly think and hope there's something coming from this. I hope there is. I hope they get everybody that's involved in this project on the 19th, a Christmas Carol, and Mark B. Perry together and say, okay, you guys know we're doing a sequel series. We want you all to come back and have them come back, all of them, and whatever they want, give it to them. If it's a soul, give it to them.
Well, what I just saw somewhere, somebody posted, it was before we got on this Skype, that Ansel Fraj is doing the sound effects for this, and of course he's had some of these actors in his movie, and Patrick designed the thing that we're seeing out there in social media, the banner, and so Patrick designed that. So you're spot on. I don't think this was a coinkydink.
No, I don't either. I think there's more. I think there is more to this, and I hope there is too. When I saw that, I messaged people like, Alexander's back. that's listen, that's to me, that's the happiest thing that I've heard out of all this because here's this woman that was driven away
Ugh.
wrongfully, and I'm glad she's back. And I hope that they're all of them really, especially her, are here to stay and are a part of the new series in a way. And I know you do too, and everyone else who is a DS fan is listening. Hopes does, hopes for too. So Mark B. Perry, if by some chance you're listening to this dog, I don't care what you got to do or whoever's get them all to come to the new series. But so that's all I can really say.
Well, I totally agree with you. I know that it's getting late, but I just want to give a couple of points about 1795.
Sure.
And I went back on my Twitter feed and I had looked on what are the lessons from 1795, and it's basically what lists is don't over romanticize the past. Aspects were great, but the ugly parts tend to be forgotten.
Yeah.
And prepare yourself what you're going to find out. It's going to be unpleasant. And if you don't want to find that out, then don't go looking for it. And my last lesson from 1795 is appreciate the president a little bit more. That's what I get out of 1795.
I think that I agree with you. That's a great points because I think Liz's words really are. There's so many great words, right? Prior and even during 1795. Here's my word to Barnabas. You should have learned to shoot that gun better. You should have learned to shoot that gun better. But yeah, we're first of all, I want to thank you, Don, for stopping by, man. Thank you so much for taking the time to come on with me. I know you're a busy dude. I always love having you guys on. I love bringing you on, Mark on, at at Fred Barnabas. I love bringing Patrick on, John on. You guys are all fun. Thank you so much, man, for coming on tonight.
You're welcome. And can I do one shout out for a Marilyn Ross book before we leave? This
Sure.
is just a shout out to all the DS fans. I'm going to make it real quick. If you have a chance to get this book on Hermes Press, it's Barnabas, Quentin, and the Nightmare Assassin. Either get it off Hermes Press or get the audiobook. And the only reason why I bring it up is it's the only thing I've seen in Dark Shadows universe. Sorry about the dog.
No,
Dark
it's okay.
universe where it takes place at Collinwood at Christmas.
Oh wow.
And if you want to do a Dark Shadows Christmas, pick up a copy of this off of Hermes Press. All I can tell you is that Nancy Berry, Carolyn Stoddard is the main character in it with Barnabas, and Quentin's in it. And that's all I'm going to say. But if you want to experience the Christmas at Collinwood that you've always wanted, get a hold of this book. And last but not least, I want to say that I'm thankful for you for a Thanksgiving. Thankful for you and all of our Twitter, our little Twitter Dark Shadow Twitter family. I really appreciate all you guys. I appreciate you having me on and giving the fans a voice. So I'm very thankful for that. And I wanted to let you know that.
Thank you, man. And I love all you guys. You guys are fun. And I love doing this and having fun with you guys. I appreciate all of you guys for the support. Just everybody who reached out, you, Mark, my buddy, John Phillip, Darnell, Daniel Culver, Christian Hannett, all you guys, and to the DS community, you guys, we love you. You guys know I love having you on and talking to you. I just love talking to fellow fans, and being a part to talk Dark Shadows. It's fun. It's something that you can have fun with. For all the seriousness that is DS, it's fun to talk about it, and it's just a terrific, terrific show. Um, so again, thank you for stopping by. Thank you for taking the time to come on with me. I appreciate it very much. I think that's the one thing I'm most appreciative of, just to be able to bring fans on and talk to you guys, because it's when I started this channel, I'm thinking, man, I hope people are going to want to come on with me and talk DS. That was my whole goal, is to get as many people as I can on here to talk about it, to hear their stories and to hear their thoughts. This wasn't just a this channel is not just a channel for me. It's a channel for everybody who wants to come on. Like I said, I have an open door policy until the day I die. There will be an open door policy. So you have a great night, Don, man. God bless you, and thank you so much, man.
You're welcome. Happy Thanksgiving, Joel.
You have a happy and safe Thanksgiving, man.
Thanks.
Good night.
Good night.